This next guest is simply amazing. You know him, his reputation precedes himself. Lawrence Hilton Jacobs, all the way back to Cooley High. Welcome back, Kotter, his Boom Boom. The part work he's done has just been incredible. He was even in Death Wish, and certainly more recently, he's worked with you on A House Divided.
I've worked with him, actually. That was his show.
Okay.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. I love this guy, man, I got to tell you.
Absolutely. Without any further ado, Lawrence Hilton Jacobs, welcome. Thank you so much.
All right, everybody. Okay, thank you.
We know you got jokes for days. We got to go back to Boom Boom and how you created that character, how you and John put that together.
You know, let me tell you a quick story about that. When you're talking about the Welcome Back Kotter TV show I did years ago, how that came up is I was flown out. I'm from New York City originally, and I was flown out here to screen test for the movie Sparkle, the original Sparkle.
Oh, yeah.
And they got it down between. This is the only time in my life I've been told this. They got it down between myself and Philip Thomas, you know, who's a good buddy. And they brought us in to tell me, Larry, you're not getting the role. I was like, okay, you know, and whatnot, because maybe because Philip was a little cuter, who knows? Yeah. But anyway, it wound up being Philip. So, but I was just a New York actor, you know, you got to get in, get a big deal. So I just went about my business, went back to the little motel I was staying in, and then I got a call to say, can you rush over to NBC? We're doing a show called Kotter. I thought it was a cop show because Kojak was on at the time and all that. Right. So I wound up doing that. And then I wound up being here 10 more days. And for some reason, they kept coupling me with Travolta, John. They always put us together all the time. You know, and everybody and their mother was up for that show, as a lot as these things can be. But that's how it inaugurated. Then we did that. I was on my way back to New York. And I don't know why. I had an instinct that I said, you know, maybe I should learn these lines. And I learned the lines. And that morning, the plane landed at 6:30 and 9:30 to call me to come in the screen test. Wow. And I screen tested, and the next day I was back here.
Wow.
That's show business, you know?
Yes, once again, divine order, how one thing just leads to another. Being in the right place. Even though, you know, I think you're still cuter than Michael Phillip, baby.
I gave her $10 for it. Okay? So,
hey,
no, Philip's my dude, man. Philip Michael Thomas is a good friend, still is, you know, and always been. And you know, I tell you what's happened over the collection of, even a moment ago when I just saw, you guys had Rocky Carroll on here, and we've known each other a long, long time. Good brother. In the black community of actors, everybody knows the drill. We know the struggle. We know what it's like. And so everybody's very complimentary, and maybe because we're older, who knows, because I'm 70, but yeah.
Never know.
Okay, I'm still here. But everybody respects each other. Everybody gets along, and we just have a quiet, I mean, I love this lady to death, who I've known forever.
Absolutely.
You know, played my wife twice.
Yeah, we played. Yeah, one time you might want to know, the first time was for Maya Harrison. And we did a music video, and we were husband and wife then. Yeah. And then the second time we played husband and wife for the series, and hopefully everybody saw A House Divided, which Larry, you've been nominated for awards from that show.
Oh yeah, that's kind of nice, you know. But you know, we worked to the second one, House Divided, but she got on my nerves, so I had to kill. No,
I did. He was a widower, but I came back to haunt his ass.
But she came back as a ghost. She got me.
But you did not do right by me until you do right by me. I'm coming back for you.
Oh man, she still got it going on. Wait a minute.
She hasn't forgotten.
Where's my lawyer?
But yeah, it's always a delight being around this guy.
We're just funny. I mean, obviously, I'm silly all the time.
People don't really know his personality, but he's a serious actor, but he's a serious, crazy kind of funny kind of guy.
Why not?
Which is really good to know. You have to be diverse, right?
I'm telling you, when we did Welcome Back Kotter in the beginning, which was in 1975, our producers also were producing Chico and the Man. So every day, you know, Freddie Prinze became a good friend. In that one year, but it was Freddie Prinze and myself, and sometimes Jimmy Walker would come around. So it was a bunch of little young guys, a couple of bucks, the inmates running the asylum, and we was just all over that studio, just creating all kind of havoc and messing with everybody and anybody. And on top of that, they were doing Sanford and Son there, so we would hang out with Red. And any given day, Red would have George Kirby or whoever, you know, these famous people, and Freddie and I were like the kids at the campfire. Now all the stories was dirty, of course, you know, it's Red and those guys, but. What a wealth, you know.
Yeah,
it's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then Cooley High, talk to us about that, how that came to pass. And I mean, that's phenomenal.
Cooley High, it was just a special thing. It's a lot of people don't know it's a true story, written by Eric Monty, who wrote about his life. Glenn, who played Preach in the movie, is Eric Monty. And then they used to call him Reverend. My character was called Genghis Khan, but they changed it to Cochise for some reason. Well, who knows why, but they did it in the movie. But it was a wonderful thing to come around. I had done a movie the year before called Claudine. Yeah. And so that got
Claudine. Oh my God.
Sometimes I think about in Claudine playing the part of Charles. I said, well, that was my rehearsals for Joe Jackson.
Yeah.
As a kid. But I had done that and they'd seen it. And then I met with Michael Schultz, who was a good friend and the director. And we talked. They didn't audition me. They just talked. And they had done it. This was the first days when they were using video. But it's black and white then. That's how long I've been around, black and white. But he just put the video on me like we're talking now. We just talked back and forth, and that was it. And I was leaving. All of a sudden, Michael left with me. And he walked down the block in Times Square and was talking about the movie and would you like to do it? Or what do you think? And all that kind of stuff. And I just, said, yeah, I said, I think it's a nice thing. It'd be good fun to do. But I don't know if this is an omen. As we got to the corner on 46th and 7th in Times Square, Claudine was playing right behind us in the theater. I was like, I don't know if that helped. But, but Cooley High was a magical movie, and a wonderful time for us. I had just turned 21 then. And Glenn was 88 then, but it's okay.
Still looks good. Huh?
Yeah, Glenn looks great.
He is.
And we had a lot of fun. It was very loose. The only actors that had, you want to call them professional actors, was myself, Glenn, and Garrett Morris. And the other ones, they just found those people who were just amazing. Even Garrett Morris, who's still a good friend. My first time I ever did a play was for a community center when I was about 16, 17. And Garrett Morris and Bill Duke were the directors.
Wow.
They did a trip, man.
Right. Oh, Bill Duke, he just had his birthday the other day, and he's moving back to Atlanta. Bless his heart.
Wow, right onto him,
Yeah, most of his family's back there. And, a lot of times when we get older in age and you don't have a lot of family here and you need real good care, just that love. And want to get back to your roots and everything.
Family matter. Family is number one. You know how I feel about that. And families, and even the community as actors or black performers, we become this unit. Over the years, we're all cool. Although I get tired of taking pictures with Catherine.
He's always photobombing. He
always got to take like 9 pictures. I'm like, come on, man, you got enough pictures of me for a sequel, man.
Yes, but anyway, and your body of work, it really is impressive. And it really is. And as much as as long as I've known you and everything, and it's like, not that I forget you're in it, but when you pop those names back up and everything, they're just amazing. And so I want to go back, though, to A House Divided. That series has been phenomenal. And right now with all the streaming and the TV and a lot of big opportunities open for a lot of black actors now that weren't there a while back with all the cable network TV streaming networks and everything. And you've just been doing an incredible job there. How did you like that? The storyline, and did you have any input as to how it developed and everything?
The creator of the show is Dan Garcia, who's also the executive producer and the writer of the show. And he directs a lot of it. We all direct. I wind up directing a bunch of them too. But he was he's an open guy. He's a very quiet guy. He doesn't. Although he was a rapper at first, but that's the personality as a rapper. As a director, or a producer, he's just very consummate and he listens to you. And I'm always changing the lines anyway. But for me, if you're talking about the character, it was different. I'm playing a guy. I'm always playing some tough guy or some guy who's got an attitude and this and that, which is fine. But this time I'm playing a guy who comes from money and they have a little bit of refinement to him, and he's almost even docile in his attitude. Where my lady. Ain't my lady no more, but at the time,
ladies,
we ain't gonna name names, but we were watching the show at home one time, and she was getting angry because she says, well, that's not you. I said, well, it's called acting. She didn't like me being being a wimp or whatever it was.
Right.
But the show has just been fun, a lot of fun, and it's all the actors are wonderful. From Demetria, who played my second wife, or Brad James, and Stefan Santana, who played my son, who I've known since he was a little guy.
Right.
His mother, Von Gretchen, and it's just all family, man.
And we have to give some love out to David McKnight.
Yeah.
David
He
McKnight,
who played his father. Excellent cast.
Yeah.
And when you're working with a director, a producer, somebody who gives you creative freedom,
Sure.
it makes such a difference, and people are able to express themselves. But there's a lot of dialogue in it, and as it goes along.
Not to cut you, but here's what happens when you're doing a show. Any kind of a television show, and you're with a cluster of actors all the time, you have to depend on each other. Right. And once you start to realize who the characters are, you get a little bit of comfort in that kind of a zone. You have to sort of find the give and take of it. It's like when we first were doing it, when we were shooting out in that big house out in Malibu, and things like that. Man. And I realized that they kept talking about, I love my wife Pam, which Kathleen played, and this and that. And we didn't have any scenes together. And I went to the producer, Dan. I said, Dan, it doesn't make sense. But I play piano, so I was playing piano. I said, and you happen to just be watching me. I said, why don't you make a scene out of that? So he went for it. So Kathleen just sat there and watched me play, and then she had to act and got all lovey-dovey.
But it made it more relatable.
I almost had to kiss him. Oh, whoa.
It ain't judging out.
Really, I came back. I told you it came back as a ghost, but
on the show, it had a lot of openness for people to be free and creative with it.
Does.
And you're there a long time, So,
How did you like the role as director? How do you weigh that?
I'm not doing directing. I started directing in '89 when I was 35. This is the first time I had done it. And so I like both. I don't know if I'm saying I'm tending to go more towards direction. I'm never going to stop being an actor. Sometimes I say to myself, if I never had to act again and just direct and write, I'll be happy. And the minute they give me a role, I'm into it, So I can't. So I got the ham in me and the spam. I got all of it.
Yeah.
But I like the directing, and I appreciate actors. Right. Of course, I respect them, and I like being able to take a performance and see if we can take it somewhere. I'm not a dictatorial director, but I always try to tell actors where we're coming from in the scene, where we are, and where we're going, so they can always have a through line. There's some kind of a process to grow to. And then I want to see what they want to bring. I'll give you an example. Years ago, I was directing a show with Stephen Williams, a good friend, called LA Heat. And we had Ice-T on the show. And Ice is good, like even when I was calling Ice to do it, I was saying, Ice, we'd like you to be in the show. Lance, man, just show me where to come. I said, read the script, right? So we got there and we had these scenes that were too long. They were like 5 or 7 pages long, which is ridiculous. So we had to cut it down to something that would be, sellable for TV. But the actors sometimes, get cocky, and it was like, well, man, I want to say this to Steve. I said, no, and we focused. And we made it work, which is what you have to do. Mm-hmm. So in directing, I like to hear an actor's input. It's funny, as an actor, I'm an actor. As a director, I become a director, and I call them my actors. Yeah. It turns around. But it's all good. It's all development.
Yeah. Talk to us. We have to talk about Joe Jackson and
Yeah. Joe was a personal friend. I had known the Jackson family many years before I ever knew I was going to play Joe. Get ready for this one. I dated LaToya twice. We'll talk about that in another show. I was back in the day. She was like 20 or something like that. I was 21, 22. I was like, what's your name, baby? All that stuff. But playing Joe Jackson was another one of those miraculous things to get. Yeah. It was a real long process to getting the part, because everybody that you could think of was up for that part, and everybody was bringing it. I'm talking about from Dorian Harewood to Eric LaSalle to Casey Lemons, Candy Alexander, Olivia Brown. Everybody was up there, and they were bringing it. Mm-hmm. Because we could all hear each other's auditions and stuff like this. So I don't know what made the difference so much for me, other than I'm not afraid as an actor. I've learned this or developed it. So when I went in the room, and I could hear the other actors sometimes playing their part, and they were being boisterous and being tough and being as Joe-ish they can be. Okay, that's their thing. I'm not putting that down. But when I got in the room, I got physical. So there was a bookcase there. I punched the bookcase. There's a chair. I flipped the chair out the way. So they even said, he's Joe. He's crazy.
Yes, right. Okay.
Maybe both.
Yeah, and I just went for it.
Good for you.
It was an extensive role. It's the Jacksons are music royalty.
Absolutely.
And there's a whole life there. There's even we couldn't put it all into as much. I can even tell you how they took it personal, where they were always on this. It was always a Jackson on the set, so it was a little weird sometimes to see a family member watching us play them. But I think they were still going through whatever was the hierarchy of the family, because we were shooting a scene where Jackie is a teenager, played by Bumper Robinson, and he comes in late, and we're rehearsing it. And it wasn't written in the script, but I just decided to push him, you know. Are you going to be late? And I just pushed him out the rest and stay out, you know, still playing Joe. Right. Anyway, Catherine, the real Catherine, was watching it off screen. And I think that she got nervous about it because she had to go home to Joe in real life. So she, you know, when we finished, she said, Larry, that's how she said, Larry, come here, Larry. And then I went over to her and she says, how are you going to play it like that? I said, I'm thinking about it. She said, you're making Joe mean. I said, well, I'm not going to comment on that. But,
hello.
So you take dramatic license as an actor, or if you're playing a real person, you don't play the real person verbatim. You play the qualities of who they are. And sometimes you get a little bit of a cosmetic or an aesthetic look at what they might look like. And that's the energy you play.
That's right.
You know, in just like even when Cooley High is a true story. I didn't know the guy co-chiefs Richard Morris, but I understood who he was. Mm-hmm. So I played that kind of energy. Or when I did Claudine, you know, Claudine was a character they made up for a movie, but I could relate to it because I came from a large family. I came from a family of 9. We grew up in the housing projects. And I know a whole lot about government cheese. So, you know, and all
Spam,
that.
for real.
Oh, spam for, and when they have them big old cans, man.
Yeah.
I used to think when you took the spam and you cook it, I used to think the grease was gravy. So, so there you go, man.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I understand that you are really quite busy these days as well, and a couple of projects coming up. Would you like
it's gotten, sometimes in show business, it's either feast or absolute famine.
Right.
Absolute famine.
Right.
But lately it's been busy. I'll tell you what I'm doing. They're doing a spinoff of the House Divided, and it's based on the lawyer played by Taja V. Simpson, which is going to be called Jupiter Jones. And my character, when we left the House Divided, I went to prison and was kind of losing it. So they got me back for a bunch of episodes, being nuts. You know, I'm doing that. A few years ago, I did a show called Legacy, with stars Ving Rhames. Yeah. And I just did 3 episodes, and that was it. I forgot about it. A month ago, I ran into the producer. He says, "Hey, congratulations for coming back." I said, "Coming back to what?" I didn't even know, you know. So he mentioned that, and so we made that. So I'm doing them at the same time. Wow. So starting in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be doing a couple of days on a House Divided spinoff, go to Legacy, and then I'm going to go into a coma probably.
Good for you, Larry.
So it's been busy. A lot of lines, man. I mean, these books are like phone books.
I know there are a lot of lines of dialogue. You know, that's one thing about, I love the theater, acting and everything. And I've done several plays, and it is really, you have to focus. Sometimes people take it for granted and think it's easy or like, and they sometimes don't appreciate the whole art that goes into making a movie or a TV show. And it's really something that you have to be very aware of. If you're not in the business, you can't.
But you know something you said to you know, and it's not something they need to appreciate. They need to buy what you're doing, but there is a process. Yeah. You know, when somebody's acting and it has a sense of naturality and you believe it, somebody's doing that. Right. You know, in a movie, when you want somebody to cry, you're making them cry. Right. You know, you want them to laugh. You want to take them on that. You know, I call it the dynamic roller coaster. You want to take them where you want to go, but there's a process to get there, as you and I both know.
Yeah,
you know?
Sometimes people nowadays are just so. What am I saying? That condescending.
You're being kind, right? You're trying to find a kind word. Right?
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, you know, they'll just
full of it, man. You can say it's legal.
Share a whole show up, or a TV show or a movie or something that's been maybe $4 or $5 billion. I mean, you got to kind of still look at the value of it and just have a little appreciation for what's been done.
Well, think about this. You know, we come from a different time. You know, I mean, us who are in our age range of people in that, we were very. You read books. That was part of just the norm. But there was a sense of community, which is family or belonging, or the village raising the child. That was just real. And so we had to involve ourselves with each other and grow and come out of that and see what that would blossom or bloom. So a lot of times today it's a quick fix, you know, where people want to just app it out, or, you know, you can talk to somebody and says, well, you know, I heard about so-and-so. Let me Google it. Sure. I'm saying, well, let's try something different. So what? Talk to me. Right. They just invented that this week. You know, let's try that a little bit. So that's the dichotomy of what we have to roll with. You know, we can complain about it, but it's senseless. You just got to tell the kids or the grandkids, do it.
Yeah,
Go Joe Jackson on them.
Social media, people believe too much of what they hear nowadays in social media, especially critics and people putting things out about a movie or TV show, whether you liked it or not. Right, and depending on who puts it out there, then you're going to automatically, before you see it, have a negative connotation about the whole movie
because it's pre-digested for a lot of it. You know, it's pre-worked out. Even when I see people creating something off of a computer, and I said, what you're doing is you might have 20,000 versions, but that's 20,000 versions of a version.
Mm-hmm.
Then all you're doing is picking parts of that and putting it together and said, I did that. I said, what about, when I have my little granddaughter at the house or something like that, and where she likes to draw anime, like most kids, and it's like that. I said, I like seeing her do that because she's into her world.
She's very good at that.
And I watch her create, and she can use all my stuff. I have all that because I'm an artist for real. Mm-hmm. She can use all the stuff. I don't deprive her of it, but I like to see her coming out of her creativity. Sure. Until, you get bored with that and try to get me to take it to a mall and buy her a new leather jacket.
Expressive stuff. Well, this show's a little different, and the audience actually gets to ask questions, so we're going to turn the spotlight on them.
My personals. I ain't telling nothing.
There we go. All right.
Yes. Now that our society has reached the ultra modern techniques in Cinemax, as well as technology, and AI is real and it's getting more prevalent as we speak. What is your advice to actors who are facing challenges, perhaps threats of AI?
I can tell you something, I'll answer that as much as I can. But an actor friend of mine years ago told me this, and you'll know who he is when I tell you. I was talking to him on the phone, and he says, Larry, I'm about leaving the stress less express. That was Bernie Mac who told me that about maybe 15 years ago. Technology is always going to be here. It's always going to change. We forget we used to have Afro pics, or people, would have to read the paper, or our access for getting information was the few television stations you had. Me as a kid, they only had 3 news programs on, and they only came on at a certain time. So we had to depend on each other. AI is here to stay, just like when rap first came in and people were tripping. Rap is here to stay. And why not? We have to grow with it. Try not to let yourself get nervous about it. Learn about it. Understand where you could fit in to make it work for you. We don't control it. We just receive it, and we react to it, and we experience it, and so forth. And that's who we are just as people. We lose it sometimes as people because we're such in a rush, or people just don't want to pay attention to each other. Mm-hmm. You go into a restaurant, there's 10 people sitting there and they're all on their cell phones. Nobody's relating back and forth. Mm-hmm. But pay attention. I have an old friend of mine who always says, man, you got to pay attention to the signs. And that's just the reality of life. So as far as the technology, that's always going to be. There was a time when they used to crank cameras. That's how we saw it. Right. Now it's all automatic where anybody can do it on their phone. Doesn't mean that it's cinematic, but you can do it, and you can record a moment. About being able to record a whole lot of moments, taking pictures. This person knows the death about that. I take 9 million pictures with Kathleen all the time, But no, just the jokes aside, just messing with her. Embrace not so much embrace, acknowledge that the technology is always going to be burgeoning and growing and enveloping in different ways, and see how you can make it work to your advantage. Sometimes we'll be clueless. But ignorance doesn't mean you're stupid. It means you're at the fact of not knowing, which means you can. Mm-hmm. So that's the growth. Mm-hmm. If that helps. Yeah. Uh-oh, my lawyer's there. Okay.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Larry. You've done so much for the people, watching your stuff and watching you do your thing. And then
thank you.
What was been your most difficult role? Was it Joe Jackson? And then when you said, Michael Marlin, pick up those tablets.
Everybody remembers that line.
Yeah, it's classic. But what's been your most rewarding role or difficult role?
I don't know. I would say the most involving role I had was playing Joe Jackson. It was a 5-hour miniseries. It took 10 weeks to shoot. It had a lot of variables to play. They had to play a lot of different ages. What I did do is, because a lot of people have the idea of Joe Jackson being some kind of a tyrant ogre. And I said, wait a minute. They made 9 babies. That took a lot of love to make 9 babies. And look at time. I said, so there's got to be reasons on that. So wherever we went into different eras of when I was playing him at different ages, I would write on the top of my script why I loved my kids. So they gave me a through line of how to play it. And some of the things I even did in it, even if you look at the movie, people say, oh, God, you were being mean or you were beating the kids. I said, you saw me spank the kids once. But the impression of it was there. Or the idea of it, which is more cinematic. Or there's a time when I had to do a scene with Monica Calhoun, who played Rebe. And in the scene where she tells me something about a woman supposed to take care of a house, and I didn't like the way she was doing it. In the original script, they wanted me to punch her. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And I said, and they said, why? I said, she's 5'2", I'm 6'3". That looks ridiculous. And I says, and if I grab her, I can scare the shit out of her, with that,
Yeah.
And I said, and that'll play even more so. So I told it to Monica and the director, Karen Arthur, went with it. And so you have to make it, you have to come out of, you have to make things, the reality of writing sometimes as opposed to the reality is different. Let's say we wrote a scene here, we're all coming to a talk show, and we came into this place where nobody's here. That's the idea. But now when you fill the room with people and cameras and you got the host, and you got this knucklehead up here talking or something like that, that gives it another dynamic. So that's what was in the Jackson's movie for me as the most involving. The most fun I ever had was doing Welcome Back, Kotter, because we were just silly. Yeah. We were a bunch of young guys with a couple of bucks, and I just turned 21, just came off of Cooley High, and, LA was new and all of that stuff. And so, it's fun, as even Kathleen was mentioning, A House Divided, I enjoyed the role because it was kind of pressing against what I normally might play or maybe is expected of me. And it's kind of fun, Well, what I'm about to do now, I'm going to work with my friend Ving Rhames, who we've never worked together.
Wow.
And Ving is great, and whatnot. And if they go for it the way I'm hoping they'll go for it, Ving was in a coma because, I'm not spoiling the show, but in the last episodes, I shot him, and, so he went into a coma. And I go to jail, but I come out, and they had no scenes with Ving and I. So I said, why don't you have a hospital scene where Ving is in the bed, and it's late at night in the hospital, and, nobody knows what's going on. You see the clock is late, or you see moonlight coming in, and I come out of the shadows, and I really tell him what I'm going to do to him. But I know I got him in a position, but I want him to live because I want him to feel what he put me through, because he took my woman, which is Lisa Ray McCoy, again, playing my woman.
Oh, right.
And my son, who thinks that that's his dad. Wow. But also for me, the background of it is, I'm a guy who was away for 20 years in prison. In 20 years in prison, you become an institution man. Times have changed. Yes. It's not 20, it's a whole nother world. So I'm trying to get that into the impact of it. So every role's a challenge, if that's what you're meaning. What's the most challenging? They're involving, I come from method acting. I come from that real, silly as I can be, and I am, acting I take very straightforward. And so, I try to build a life, what we call a case history to a person is, and bring that in, not verbatim, you'll see it, but you'll see it in the attitude, or sometimes a subtle inflection in an eye, or how you change your voice. If you talk down here, it's one thing. If you talk up here, it's something else. That affects people, so it's how you do it and so forth, because I know you want to hear, Michael, Mom, who put up the towels? So you got it, brother. Yeah.
That is important too, because so many people get stereotyped in this business. It's easy, as Rocky was talking about that too, and picking and choosing roles earlier in his career that might have given him a stereotypical.
So I have a case about that. Stereotyping couldn't happen, but a lot of it is what you allow. Or if you play, I'll give an example, just using myself as an example. I done the movie Claudine, and, and I played this real militant young man, who was, all upset because his mother had all these kids and life was terrible living in Harlem. Okay, that's that. A couple of years later, I'm doing Welcome Back, Kotter, and they're going to do a television movie called, I forget what it's called, A Sweet Something, but it was starring Cecily Tyson and Robert Hooks. And they needed somebody to play their oldest son. My agent, at the time was saying, oh, God, to the producer, Philip Barry, you should get Lawrence Hilton Jacobs. He could play this part, this and that. And the guy says, oh, I know him from Welcome Back, Kotter. And no, the role, no, it's a different role. And, and this and that. He says, he said to my, you know what we want? If we can get that kid who was in Claudine, that would work.
No.
And then my agent told me, he said, it's the same guy.
Oh, wow.
So he was embarrassed in them. But the point I'm making is that I did Claudine, I did Cooley High, I did Kotter, all playing teenagers, but you play them differently.
That's right.
And so that is the envelope of us being an actor. And stuff like you approach it differently. So you can play a thug 20 times, but you can give different aspects to it, or you can play a father. I recently worked with Karen Ward Ross on the movie, and she played my daughter when she was 10 years old on Fame. Wow. And which is really sweet. And she's still a sweet lady. She's a grown woman now with her own kids. But, the way we played it even back then is that she was my daughter, and I would just talk to her and hold her a certain way. And she's, a 42-year-old woman now, and she still thinks she's my little girl.
There you go.
of all the characters that you've played, is there a role that has left a spot within you that you didn't expect, like became a part of you that you couldn't separate from?
I get intense about it. I try to turn it off when I leave the set, and not try to take it home. When I was, not to get in my personal life, but when my lady was living with me and stuff like that, it was kind of rough on her sometimes because I was playing all this intense stuff and I was rehearsing it at home. And so I was a little distant, and so that sometimes gets into the drum of it. But I try to release it. My way is always cracking bad jokes or something like that. I'm like that, and it's Kathleen knows the death. I'll crack a bad joke and then right away I'll just right into the scene and just get into it. And that's my way of being able to have a bit of a separation. Mm-hmm. But it's tough. What I'm about to do. I'm playing two different kinds of people. One guy who's in prison who's losing his mind, and the guy who's coming out of jail who wants a revenge. So what is the through line? Well, the guy who I'm playing who's in jail, which is from A House Divided, is that he's lost everything and now it's flipping how he's going to start feeling. Being docile and laid back is no longer. How does he do it? He's overdoing it. The other guy has been away for 20 years and coming back into life, coming from a gangster life, but now he wants to get a revenge. But to me, the way to play it is to play it subtle and to play it quietly and to get somebody in a second, like that. It'll be that kind of a snap thing. This young man who's going to be playing my son, whose name is Marquise, unfortunately, he don't notice it, but I'm going to grab his little skinny butt and throw him down. I'm going to let him know I'm going to do it. And that's the electric of it.
That spontaneity sometimes really works.
Try to give it something to build to. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And one little follow-up to that is, how do you continue to take care of yourself and still stay fit and on top of things? All this work at this point in your career.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. The key to it is you got to get yourself a can of Spam. You got to get the butter off the top. You got to put it all over you. So you have no friends, but you're going to look younger. I still work out, a little bit, not as much as I used to. Every other day I try to take a 2 or 3 mile walk. That's just been a habit since I was a kid growing up in New York. I did martial arts for a long time, so I still do a little bit of that. I don't work out with the weights as much, but they're still working. They still got them. They're still there. You just got to make it part of. It has to be part of a lifestyle.
Yeah, I might marry you again in my film.
That's the reason I'm doing it. I was talking with the driver coming in here, Caesar, and he was asking me those same things, and I said, everything's a lifestyle, a part of how we grow. I said, and I don't know if this is a tribute to it, but I've never, ever, ever, ever done drugs, period, in my life. Never. I don't smoke. When I was 9 years old, I tried to smoke a Newport cigarette. My chest was on fire. They canceled me that day. And I don't drink. I'm not a drinker. And so if that helps, maybe so. A lot of people don't believe that because they think you're in show business. You're lying. You want to put some cocaine in you. Come on, and all that. I'm like, man.
No, that's wonderful. It shows you look healthy.
How it goes, man. That's how those cats are. It's like, yo, Lance, what's up? Nah, man, you handcuffed to that pipe. Come on, man. Here we go.
So last question, Promise, talking about the young people. Some young actors coming up from the East Coast wants to follow in your footsteps. What type of advice might you give them in terms of really
never following anybody's footsteps, following your footsteps.
I like that.
Okay?
I like that.
That's the footsteps you follow. And when young actors, any actors ask me, they say, if there a key to it, is there some kind of a burgeoning envelope to what you do? And I said, be honest. Mm-hmm. We know when we're failing. We know when we're BSing. We know that we need to grow to something. We know when we're just not up to speed. And you're allowed to have that. And if you need the time to just get by yourself or go off and get that extra hamburger or go kiss the kids or something like that, go do it. Go have life. Go catch a window sale, or go take a long walk in the park. If you got to cry, go cry. I've had those days,
Mm-hmm.
Recently I was just away with Glenn Turman. We went away to do some award thing. And we were talking on the plane, and I was telling my older brother who passed away 4 years ago. I'm getting it again, and I cried. And Glenn probably never see me cry. I said because that's my brother, and that's my family, and I miss him. And when we were super close, he was my mentor coming up as a kid. And so you have to have life, and you got to go forward, and it's really that simple. But that's the difficulty and the simplicity of it is because, day to day we have influences, or we're creatures of habit. We get out of, I don't want to hear it, or I don't want to feel it and all that. So it's involving, but we're people. We can go on, you want to play patty cake?
No, I'm saying I understand what you're saying, but they have to, the young people too, and I get asked that question all the time about when they're coming up with advice. It is work.
It is work.
They have to understand it is
life
work.
is earned, and we earn our moments in life. We grow to it. What we did at 5, we don't do at 10, or at 15, but you do come from someplace that has its own merits and its own sacredcy, if you want to use that as an adjective. It's adjective, my white word of the day. Okay. But, we grow as people. When you get into relationships, you have kids, you're working in different aspects, being a musician. My boy, Victor Lander down there. When I play with Victor, I become a musician and he's the boss,
Yes.
That's yeah. So, you make the adjustments of life all the time and then go off and go home. Chill out, take it easy. Yeah.
You can't always take it home with you, like you said.
Man, taking it home becomes difficult.
Rough.
You still have to go home and, when the kids in the middle of the night, you take them to the movies and, and they had a good time and they had their Slurpees and all that. And 2 o'clock in the morning, they throw up in the bed. You got to clean it up. I've been there too many times, so I'm cleaning up while I get them together and they sleep and I'm over there cleaning sheets and, oh my God, smelling that stuff. That's life. You got to do it.
Absolutely. Well, you've truly been such a pleasure and such
Thank
a
you.
treasure.
Yeah, thanks.
So we really appreciate all the time, all the work coming out. Thanks so much. We're going to take a little bit of break, and when we come back, we're going to have climax.
All right.